Statistics students are typically taught that when they make bar graphs, their y-axis should include a 0 point. And that's true. In this particular graph, you can see that there's no 0 point, and in reality, this graph is very misleading. Let's assume we're charting here the number of felonies in some town or city over the past couple years. Clearly, there's a trend such that there are more felonies from a few years ago. But if you look closely at the numbers, you can see that these bars are completely out of whack. There were about 218 felonies in 2014 and about 225 in 2015. But look at this bar. This bar looks like it's about twice as large as this bar, but we know that 225 is not twice as large as 218. In other words, these bars are out of proportion. And that's what makes graphs like this that do not include a 0 point misleading, because they don't include the entire bar. And if we can't see the entire bar all the way down to 0, the bars aren't going to be in the correct proportions. So when we try to make ratio comparisons, saying something like there are twice as many crimes in this particular year compared to this year, we can't do it accurately if the bars are not in the appropriate proportions. So what I'm more interested in covering right now is why somebody might do this. There are two basic reasons that I'd like to talk about. One is pretty obvious, and it could be that someone's trying to get you to believe something. They're trying to sell you a story. So if I really wanted to make a strong case that felonies are on the rise over the past couple years, I might show you a graph like this. Some people would say it's a fair graph because the numbers are plotted. We've got labels here. You could look at what the bars represent in terms of their numbers and figure it out, but I think everybody would agree it's misleading. The other reason why someone might do this that I'd like to discuss right now is relatively innocent, and it could be that somebody's just somewhat naive when it comes to building a graph like this. Let me get out of PowerPoint and show you what I'm talking about. If I edit this data and just start from scratch for a minute, you'll see that the graphing engine here does a lot on its own. So let's say I start putting in those numbers. I had 218 felonies listed in 2014, and so far things look good. And you can see automatically the scale includes a 0 point. When I go to the next year, I'm going to put in 225. That's what I had in there before. And now you can see it automatically rescaled the y-axis. Let me put in that final value, 229, and it rescaled it again. The graphing engine thinks it knows what I want, but it doesn't, because I want a 0 point in there so that these bars are actually in their appropriate proportions. So what I need to do, and not everybody knows how to do this, is that I need to go in here. I just right-clicked, hit Format Axis, and then when it comes to scale, I'm going to tell it that I want the minimum value to be 0. Click OK, and there we go. Now, that graph doesn't look as pretty, does it? And it certainly doesn't tell the same story in terms of felonies being on the rise, but it is accurate in terms of the proportions of these bars.